day out there to all of my listeners, and I'd like to welcome you to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And I am your host. For those new listeners, my name is Cassandra Crawley Mayo. And I also wanted to share with you, it's not so much, well, many of you may not be aware, the title of my book is the same title as my podcast. So it is about the book, but it's not about the book. So what this is all about is your mirror. As we go through this process and we talk about things that's related to self-improvement, empowerment, I want you to kind of look in the mirror and see whether you are seeing yourself. Because I always say, are you living your best life on your terms? And many people think that's a cliche, but I don't. I always say this. Are you living in a way that maximizes your happiness, your authenticity, and your fulfillment? Now, think about that. And as you're thinking about that, I also want you to act in a way that's aligned with your values, well being, and pursuing rather than just dreaming. Oh, today we have a special guest by the name of Ginny Priem, and I'm going to introduce her. But our topic today is the unsubscribed shift, Ginny Priem's surprising approach to success. And I'm going to introduce her to the stage. Hello, Ginny. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, wow, what a pleasure to have you on. I would like to read your bio just so my listeners will get a better understanding of what qualifies you to do the work that you're doing. Jenny is a master certified professional life coach, number one best-selling author, and host of the globally top ranked podcast, Drinking with Jen. I'll tell you all about that when I saw her title, what I was thinking. After uncovering a shocking truth about a man she loved who was not who he claimed to be, Jenny turned personal heartbreak into a powerful journey of healing and growth. Drawing from over 20 years in corporate leadership and emotional intelligence, she created Gen Path, GINPATH, a transformational framework that helps people grow through adversity rather than be defined by it. Today, she inspires audiences worldwide to reclaim their story and take their next bold step forward. Wow, so that's Jenny's bio. So you got to learn a little bit about who she is. Jenny, what was your life like before you started working for corporate?
Oh, before corporate? Gosh, that was a million lifetimes ago.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, I started corporate really, really young. I graduated college when I was 20, and I already had a full-time job in corporate America before I even graduated. So, I mean, being a teenager, just I always was really driven to achieve and, kind of get to the next thing.
So when you were that age growing up, was there anything that you dreamed about that you wanted to do? I know many people ask individuals when they're very young, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm like, I don't know. I'm so young. But I did have some thoughts in my mind of things that I wanted to do and be. Did you have any when you were growing up in
You
school?
know, I think I had this idea of success that it was like, you get the title, you get the big salary, you make a lot of money, you get a fancy car, and this hustle, you hustle, right? Like this hustle culture. To me, I think when I was young, and also based on the people that I had, around me, that was kind of
Mhm.
what identified success.
Okay. So in other words, you knew you wanted to be successful in one realm or another. It sounds like.
Yeah, but
and, and
I think that the idea of success shifts for people over time, right? So you're asking me what it meant to me back then. That is not what defines success to me now whatsoever.
okay, let me ask you this then. How do you define success
I think
now?
success now is really getting in alignment with yourself
Mm, okay.
and finding what really is meaningful to you finding what matters. And, you in your intro, you use some words like authenticity, right? Like being
Mhm.
authentic to who you truly are, not being what everybody else thinks you should be.
Okay, great, great. Now, what qualified you to become a certified professional life coach? Why did you choose that field?
Well, so it really kind of stems back from my experience in of heartbreak. I ended up coming home one day to realize that my partner was basically living a double life. He and his kids were living in my house, and it really just imploded everything. Here I had this person. I thought that he was one thing, and he was a complete monster and a fraud in every way
Mhm.
imaginable. I had these two kids that I love. And then everything just changed immediately overnight, and it shook me to my core. I mean, it really shattered and imploded everything. And as I started putting the pieces back together, that's when I really started realizing how out of alignment I was with myself, and how I was over functioning, and how I was trying to be everything that I thought everybody else wanted me to be. And that's when I published my first book about that story, #1 bestseller, You're My Favorite, and then my guided journal. And through that process, as I was planning my exit from corporate, that was one of the things that I wanted to do is, how do you help pull other people along the way? And so I sourced an ICF accredited program, and, went through the whole certification process, lots and lots of hours,
Mhm.
to get that. So today, now I do, as you mentioned, keynote speaking. I'm an author. I just released my third book, Unsubscribe. I've got my Unsubscribe podcast.
Mhm.
I do coaching, and yeah, so those are the four main kind of parts of my business.
Yeah, yeah. In the beginning, when I talked about which living your best life looks like on your terms, and I asked the question, it's all about maximizing your happiness, your authenticity, and your fulfillment. When you were in this relationship, and I'm asking because of my audience, and many times some relationships could actually be in their way. It's not enabling them to be happy, fulfilled, or and authentic. What specifically, well, let me ask you this. What was going through your mind? What triggered you to say, okay, this is it? And I ask that because there are a lot of individuals struggle with get stuck getting out of something that's not serving you. Tell my audience what was it about you, or was it that bad, or what happened to help people get unstuck? Because a lot of people are stuck in relationships that are not enabling them to live their best life.
Yeah, well, for me, it was evidence. I was on a work trip, and a friend wanted to urgently meet for cocktails at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night when I landed.
Mhm.
And she proceeded to display an arrangement of evidence about this man that was living in my house, who I thought was one person and turned out to be completely different. I was able to verify some of the evidence. And so for me, the relationship was over immediately. I had him out of my house that weekend. All of that said,
Mhm.
there were signs, there were
Mhm.
indicators that I had been ignoring, red flags. I was
Mhm.
ignoring my intuition, and my body had been screaming at me. During
Mhm.
the relationship, I actually had precancerous skin lesions removed from my body. My hair
Mhm.
was all breaking off and falling out. And at the height of the stress, I even got shingles on my face in my 30s,
Mhm.
which is not normal. So I think
Mhm.
sometimes our bodies are telling us and indicating to us, and like in my case, I like to say it was screaming at me saying
Yeah.
something is wrong. You need to start paying attention. And once I removed that relationship from my life, everything started to become more clear. The narcissistic abuse that I had endured from him was also part of my family of origin story, and was also then part of who I was picking as friends and coworkers that I was surrounding myself with. So I had to do a lot of housekeeping, a lot of deep inner looking at my own patterns and behaviors before I could even start down this new path.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I talked about in the beginning also, it's not so much the book is your way in your way. It's about let's all look in the mirror and see, what's really going on with ourselves. So I appreciate you sharing that information because I know it was needed. And you appeared you got to a point. Well, I'm just out of it. I'm sick and tired of it. And another thing, and transitioning out of that, did you have what type of support supported you in moving forward?
Mm. So I started incorporating a few different things. I ended up going on this meditation retreat, which I'd never meditated before for a single second in my life. But why don't I just go on a 5-day trip in another country and, meditate every day? But it was one of the most transformative experiences for me. And that was really where I started doing a lot of, like you said, looking in the mirror. I love that you use that. Because you do, like, only you can change for you. And I needed to make some changes because I was completely over functioning. I was, like I said, trying to be everything to everybody. And I do have a great support system, friends, family that I love and trust. And I just did a ton of research. I really got super curious and gathered so much information. I started to be more intentional about where and who I spent my time and energy with. And you'd be surprised at how big of an impact that can have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I always talk about, even though corporations have a board of directors, I think personally we should have a board of directors. Those individuals that are in our circle that has our best interest at heart. And I've had friends in the past, and I'm not saying they're no longer friends, they're acquaintances, but yet I'm in a different space right now. And there's some that perhaps get offended and don't get it. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. If you ask me what it is, I'll share it with you. But right now, I'm in a whole new thing. I am actually living my best life, and it's taken years. Sounds like yours did. Now, tell me your number one best-selling book. You're my favorite. What what triggered? I want to know the name. Okay, what triggered you're my favorite?
That's the story of the guy that was living in my house, which is the story that changed everything for me.
Okay. Now, when you say you are my favorite, who is you? You?
Well, that's kind of what you find out in the book. There's a few real pivotal moments of why, and very specific why I chose that title. It was really a way of reframing a phrase that I had coined and reframing it in a different way.
Okay, great. Because it is a best-selling book, and I liked how you segued into that. In order to find out, you have to read the book. So my audience, please get her book, her number one best-selling book. However, she has a couple more that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Now, let me tell you, when I saw your name of your podcast, it said podcast, it says drinking with Jen.
And so I did a whole rebrand last year. So that podcast has not existed for quite some time. So my podcast is, like I said, Unsubscribe with Ginny Priem, which is also the name of my new book, Unsubscribe: Why Letting Go Is the Secret to Getting Ahead.
Okay, good. Yeah, because when I saw that, I was thinking of gin, the drink. And I said, oh, it should be really interesting. And then later on, as I was prepping, I'm like, oh, yeah, her name is Ginny, blah, drinking with Jen. Well, I'm glad you shared that your podcast is Unsubscribe. Is it Unsubscribe Shift?
Nope, it's Unsubscribe with Ginny Priem.
Okay. Now, what's triggering that name? What does unsubscribe mean?
So Unsubscribe is my intellectual property, where I created an entire filter around, and like I said, the name of my book is Unsubscribe: Why Letting Go Is the Secret to Getting Ahead. I call it a filter to reclaim time, energy, and boundaries at work and in life. So the whole premise is about, again, like I mentioned earlier, hustle culture. I think so many people think that the idea or the way to success is more, but I want to put that on its head. And really the whole idea is about, everyone's busy, but are we actually being productive? People are too busy focusing on the wrong things, so that don't bring fulfillment, that aren't in alignment with you. And so the whole idea is about doing less, but with intention, because what you don't is as important as what you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
there's
that
four
that
pillars that built that
okay.
create it.
Is that the Gen Path? Is
No,
that
that
part of the
Gin Path, again, that I haven't talked about that in years, but it's part of my guided journal, I'm My Favorite, which is your guided journal, a guided journal for your path forward. So that was the book that kind of came after You're My Favorite. But right now, all of my work is really around unsubscribe.
okay. 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 Um, so the title of this podcast is Unsubscribe Shift.
No,
All right.
unsubscribe with Ginny Priem.
Right. Ginny Preem's surprising approach to success. That's the information I received in regards to what you or your team thought would be a great title for this podcast.
I misunderstood your question. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Tell us about you mentioned how adversity can help one become a better leader. Why do you say that?
I think adversity, when we all face adversity, right? But it's all about in how you navigate it. We all always have choices. And so like for me,
Mhm.
I look at my own situation and what I endured with my relationship. I think it's easy to make a choice to become jaded or tougher or closed off or have a chip on your shoulder. But you also have a choice to use it to do good and do better. And for me, it definitely softened me.
Mhm.
Which it's not that I wasn't soft before, but I kind of had this tough exterior, like this tough kind of false sense of armor on,
Yeah.
and that all went away. And like the real vulnerable, authentic me was exposed through that adversity. And I think that makes us more relatable. I think that makes people feel more comfortable around us. And so I think that can lead to being a better leader too.
Yeah. 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 Because I mean, we all have choices. We could be better or bitter about the things
Mhm.
that have occurred, and I love it that you chose better. Also, when I think of adversity, and I know there's nobody on this platform that's not run into adversity. And if there are anybody listening that has not, just live on because you will. That's a fact. You definitely will. And I also think adversity and not only can humble you, but it also builds character. And when I think about the things that you said and the things that you've been through, I could say, although we all have a story, my story is different, but I have a story. And I've had a lot of adversity in my life as well. But one of the things I learned is that it has built my character. It has built my hope. I am a more, I would say, approachable, as you indicated. And I'm at a point in my life where I understand that we're all here for a reason. And although you went through your thing, I go through mine, people listening, but I turn that into something that would benefit others because when much is given, much is required. So I know now that, as you indicated, you're just in a better place, which is a great thing. I said that as one of my chapters in my book, dear women who are in a good place. So there are opportunities that you can become and get in a good place. Um, you talked about now your Gen Path is something you had, but do you still do that program?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the
Okay.
foundation of my guided journal, which is really basically the steps that I took to get through that difficult time in my life. And I like to
Mm-hmm.
say it's a guide. I like to be less prescriptive and more guided, which kind of aligns with what you said about like we all have a story. And when we open up and share what we've been through, it helps other people feel less alone, no matter how similar or how different their story of adversity
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you be able to share maybe a couple of bullet points about the guide, like what's in it that
Yeah.
yeah, that the path that what I say, that test the path you developed, tested, and implemented to help others grow.
Yeah, so it's the GIN stands for gather, intentions, and nurture. So those are the three kind of pillars of foundation. But inside the journal, it's 13 full months of exercises, beautiful illustrations. My illustrator is so talented. And there's also like inspirational quotes. I touch on a little bit of my story. It's just a beautiful support to kind of help people through difficult experiences.
Would you be able to explain anyone that you worked with and how um, they had an aha moment as a result of the program, or particularly when people transition and you were able to get them to, I would say, see the light. It can also make us feel good when we see an individual transform. Is there any particular person, no names or anything, that you could describe who went through this program, and when they did, what was the outcome, the result that they had?
I mean, I can't think of just a specific person, but I do focus a lot on narcissistic abuse recovery. And that's, because that is similar to my own, I feel like that's just a lot of the type of clientele that I've attracted through that. But also, like, when I speak on stages, I love the stories and people just coming up to me in tears afterwards going, "Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing what you went through. This is what I'm going through, or what I went through." And so it's just that human connection that we have through being a little bit more vulnerable, so that people, again, feel less alone, sharing their stories. We see these breakthroughs, people making life-changing decisions to, like you said, find that happiness for themselves, be in a good place.
Right, exactly. You talked about how, and you've had several keynotes. Is that correct?
That's the primary work that I do. Yes.
Yeah, like the TEDx talks, and are you getting ready to be on another one soon? Have a
I
TEDx?
speak pretty much every week. Not another TEDx, but I mean, I
Okay.
speak all the time. I guess that's my work.
Okay. Can you tell us, what I read is that your keynotes leave people inspired. All
That's the
right.
goal.
And right. To take the next step to their own path. What is it that you could share with my audience that will support or inspire them, that will enable them to take the next step or take a different path? What can you
Yes.
take?
So it's really all about my unsubscribe filter that I've developed. So there's 4 pillars that build this, or that are the foundation of unsubscribe. So there's manage, swap, mute, and block. And manage is for the things that are urgent, that are important, that we have to deal with, whether it's people, tasks, things that we can't just remove. And unsubscribe is not about flippantly walking away from things or just burning it all down. It's really an actionable filter with, like I said, steps and 4 different pillars that are designed to help support people, high achievers, high performers, so that they can perform better, lead better, and live better. So manage is for those things. So, like, I like to use the example of relationships. Maybe you do have a difficult relationship that you're struggling with right now, or that's just, a little bit more of a challenge than usual. So you can manage, you can't change how they behave, but you can manage how you interact, whether it's the duration of time you spend with them, the frequency, or the type of communication or interaction you have. And then there's swap, which is, we can exchange things that are outdated, or systems or beliefs or ways that we used to operate that no longer work for us. So an example I like to use for swap for me is during the pandemic, I stopped watching the news in the morning because it was just too Debbie Downer for me. And I started reading. So I did a swap of reading books, for the news. I also did a very impactful swap for myself I swap things for experiences now, because that is much more meaningful for me versus buying a new pair of shoes or a new purse. Like, I would way rather go on a trip and see and experience a new place, a new culture. It's just way more fulfilling. And then there's mute, things that we need to take a break from. Great, easy example is, maybe you don't need a Monday morning meeting every Monday at 7 a.m. Maybe we mute that, take a break from it 1 week a month. Or Dry January is a great example of mute taking a break from something, where people, take a break from alcohol for, the month of January.
Right.
And then block is for where things go to die. Block is where we are completely removing or eliminating things that no longer work for us in our lives, at work. For me, I've had to block some relationships, that were just really unhealthy. I recognized my own patterns and behaviors that I was choosing some of the wrong people. And so block is for things that we need to or want to completely eliminate and remove. So that's kind of the foundation of where people go, oh my gosh, this filter gives me the framework to make better, faster decisions so that I am more aligned with myself, gives them a clear common language to use at work, with their friends, at home, with their family. So we're all kind of speaking the same language.
Okay. Now, was that an acronym you just called, like the manage, the swap? That's
No.
easier to remember? Okay. So would you repeat that again? These are the four pillars, right?
Yep,
That you
there's four
right.
pillars: manage, swap, mute, and block.
Okay. Okay. Great. Excellent. Uh, Jenny, what's next for you? Have you thought about that? Or you just status quo, or what's next?
I am very happy and content with the work I'm doing right now. It's extremely meaningful. Unsubscribe, the book just came out less than a month ago, so it is still in that infancy stage. I'm continuing to speak on more and bigger stages, doing a lot of TV and media right now. So I think just this momentum continuing to carry forward is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Okay, that's great. That's great. That's great. Um, I'm curious. 5 years from now. Now you've been coaching for was it you had 20 years in corporate leadership and emotional intelligence, right?
Mhm.
So where did that emotional intelligence come from, in corporate, or that's part of what you currently do? Based
Both.
on okay, all right, all right, okay, all right. So all right, so you're going to continue to do what you're doing, and I think that's great because you're in a good place and you like what you're doing. So I'm not going to ask you. I was going to ask you where do you see yourself in 5 years, but let's just stick with what you're doing right now, and continue to do it well.
And I'm happy to answer that. I think what's interesting is if you would have told me that I'd be here 5 years ago, I wouldn't have
Mhm.
believed it, right? Because I had a completely different change. So I would be very proud to still be doing this same work in 5 years. I think it will still continue to evolve as we all continue to evolve. People that are, here, your audience, the people that are rolling up their sleeves and doing the work and investing in themselves. So I commit to doing the same for myself too.
Oh, great, great. Okay, so remember when you said you started young, you went to school like in your 20s, or you got out of school in your 20s or something like that, you said. Looking back, what would you tell yourself?
Mm. Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Look, at that age,
Hmm.
there's more to life.
Hmm.
That's what I would say. There's more to life.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? Because of
Yeah,
these my listeners listening, and yeah, there's a lot more to life.
yeah.
Help them understand that.
There's more to life than, being the grind and the hustle. I think that's again just outdated beliefs and systems that maybe were generations before, where it's like you get to work the earliest, you work the hardest, you get really good grades, then you get the promotion, then you get the raise, and then rinse and repeat, right? And to me, that's what I mean. Like there's more to life. You have
Mhm.
to find enjoyment in other things as well.
Yeah, right. Well said. Well said. Uh, because I can remember, and I'm not proud of it, but I've worked more than, I don't think I've ever worked 40 hours a week. I think it was always 50, 55 weekends, just craziness, because that was the culture based on where I was. So this was their expectations, and I tried very hard to follow them. And then then you start burning out, because that's not really who you are, and you can be just as effective, even more, when you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Period. Period. Yeah. So Jenny, I want to thank you for your time. I I am enamored, particularly because I've talked to many women that are in situations that have been difficult to get out of for certain reasons. But you are a great example to say, you know what? Hey, there's more for me. There's definitely, like you said, more to life than what I'm experiencing. And I think too, you're a testament, and I could say you are the epitome of someone who's living their best life on their terms. So I just appreciate that. I want to thank you. And I want to talk to my listeners to say that please share this podcast if you see it as a value to somebody, meet their best interest. You will see this podcast, you'll see clips of it and everything as a reminder. Jenny, tell my audience how they can get in touch with you in the event that, now let me ask you, when you speak, do you have a certain title you speak about, or what's it based on, what you talk about?
Yeah, right now, my 100% of my keynotes I'm booking is all my unsubscribed content.
Okay.
So I can customize titles, which is really fun. Like this week, I'm doing one called Let Go to Grow,
Okay.
which is still unsubscribe, but it's very specific to their audience. But
Okay.
yeah, you can find everything. You can book me to speak, inquire on my website, ginnypriem.com. That's GINNYPRIEM. That is also my YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of my socials, just to keep things easy.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, again, thank you. My audience, thank you. And as I say, that God bless you, and bye for now. Thanks again, Jenny.
Thank you.